Hello reporters, today we're going to be talking about how to create Google Forms to create a survey. It's actually quite simple. Some of us might have already done this, so this will be a quick review, but for the rest of us, make sure you're paying close attention on how to create a Google form. So in Google, obviously you're going to click on the dice and you're going to scroll down until you find the Google Forms option. Chances are a lot of you guys have actually filled out a Google form, even if you've never created one yourself. We're going to start by clicking blank at the top. And you're going to notice you come up with a blank template here. The first step is to create a title for your form. Keep it short and to the point. So if I'm going to be putting out a Google form that's going to go out to a specific team, I would say it's for that team. So we're going to be hypothetically talking about the football team. So I'd say football yearbook survey. It's always a good idea to include yearbook survey so that people know, in fact, that this is going to be a survey where their quotes can end up in the yearbook. The next is that you have to put a description in here. And in this, you need to identify yourself and also what this form is going to be used for. So you can simply write the following. All right, so I would put something along these lines is the following survey will be used to collect data for the upcoming Rock Falls High School yearbook. By completing this form, you are giving the RFHS yearbook staff permission to use any information in the yearbook in the form of quotes, etc. Thank you, Mrs. Shore, yearbook advisor. So obviously you would put your name in here and I would put yearbook staffer. Okay, so pause this video. And then the nice thing is once you've created one form, you can just copy and paste this and put it into any additional forms that you create. All right. You do also need to double check here that this is the setting, that it's going to automatically collect emails for the Rock Falls High School. Okay. Very, very important. Okay. Next one, I would always start by give them the option to put their name in there. Just in case something were to happen and you didn't have this set, you always have their name. And then from here to create questions, you're going to click on this little plus sign. And you're going to type your question. So depending on the type of Google form or survey you're putting out, you will have explicit directions from me as to whether they're supposed to be open-ended or closed-ended. And also if there's a specific type of question, because you're going to notice if you click on this drop-down, Google Forms gives you a lot of options. So you can do short answer or paragraph. You can do multiple choice, checkbox, drop-down. You can also do a linear scale, etc., etc. The most common that you're going to use is short answer or paragraph, multiple choice, and possibly check boxes or drop down. You probably are not going to use a linear scale, etc., etc. Right? But I'm going to show you if we do a short answer. A short answer and paragraph are pretty much the same thing. You're going to phrase your question in here. So I would say, remember, this first form that you're sending out is just to get a general feel for what their season or what your topic is like, because you can't come into it with any preconceived ideas. So don't come in automatically with bias saying, why was this season difficult? Well, that's you already deciding that this season was difficult when in fact maybe it wasn't. So it's a good idea just to start with some general questions. So all right, how would you describe this year's season and why? That's a good two-parter. The why is what turns that into an open-ended question, because if I just said, how would you describe the season, they might answer with one word like tough or fun. By adding the why in there, it's going to force them to kind of expand on that. All right. With this button down here required, if you click on it, it's going to force them to answer it. And And that's up to you whether or not you want to do that. If it's a question where you're like, I know some people might not be able to answer it, I would definitely uncheck that so it's not required. The name one, I would make that required just so it's going to force everybody, right? If I wanted to do a paragraph, notice it's not going to change anything. It's going to look the same. It's just going to allow them to type in more. All right. To create a multiple choice, so if I put in which capacity were you a part of the team? Or, you know what, that's kind of big fancy words. Instead, I might be, what was your role on the team this year? And then this is where I would give them some options. So I would say, team captain, team athlete, competitor, coach, manager, assistant. And then it's always a good idea to put other, simply because if you're not well versed in that sport or whatever that topic is, it kind of helps people who don't fit into any of these things that you might not even think of, right? So this is an example of a closed-ended question. In my experience, I would not ask any more than 5 questions in any given form because you're starting to overwhelm them. The more questions you have, the less likely they are to fill it out, okay? So when you are done, you always want to double check your settings. So if you want to change your colors, you can even put a picture for the heading. You can do all that, just obviously make sure it makes sense with your form. And then you will want to click on the view, the preview at the top, because it's going to show what your survey would look like if you sent this out. It's just a good idea to double check it. You close that preview, it'll take you back here. If I want to send this out, you would click, you can either send it to specific email. So if I know I'm sending this to Coach Parker, I could send it directly to Coach Parker. If you click include the form in the email, what it will do is it literally will have the form in the email instead of them having to click on a link. So I would recommend this, especially for students. And then in here for your subject, leave it as the title, and then you would just leave this as blank, or you could put football survey, or if you want to, you could put your own little text in here. It's just going to be that top message that shows up right above the form, okay? What you want to do before you send out any form is I do want you to always add me as a collaborator. So if you click here, you can then click on my name, so you would start typing. What that does is it allows me to make edits to the survey if I need to, and then also for me I can also look at your responses. And you will want to do that with anybody that needs access to your form. So if you are working with another student on a page, you would want to add them as a collaborator. All right? I'm just going to close out of there. All right, so let me show you a form that I've already created. So let's just click on, well, let's click on the student of the month. Let's see if anybody, no, I have no response. Let's not click on that one. Let's click on the Senior Rewind page here. Okay, so once you've sent this out, we've emailed it, you're starting to get responses back. You're going to see that you see responses up at the top. You can view your responses several different ways. So it's going to start with the summary. So if you scroll down, it's going to say, okay, these are all the emails that got collected. These are all the responses for that first question. This is your second question. Notice it's hard to tell like who said what. So if you click on the question tab, it's going to take you through each of the questions. So this was question number 1, which said, what is the name? Okay. Question number 2 said, what was your reflection? So it's going to list all the answers. And if you click on where it says one response, it's going to tell you who said that. So it's just a little bit of a shorthand. You can also click on an individual person. So if I know I want to see all of Madison Cox's answers, it's going to show her responses. I can also click on this little spreadsheet icon up at the top, click create, and it's going to give you a spreadsheet of everything they said, of all of your responses. That might make it a little bit easier. If you're going to, you can even print this off and give this to me or to somebody else to keep in the file here. Okay, so that's going to be your first step before you start on your first fall pages. We've got to create at least one form that you're going to send out. And you might decide to do several different forms. Like I'm going to create one form that's going to go out to the seniors, and I'm going to create a different form that's going to go out to my juniors because I want to ask them different questions. It's up to you. But everybody has to send at least one form out depending on your topic. All right? If you have any questions, make sure you ask your other peers in class. We have a lot of repeat offenders in here, meaning past yearbook staffers who are well advanced at this, and they have a lot of experience sending out forms, and they can even help you identify what might be some foreseeable problem questions where they know that you're not going to get good results. Because really spend time, get some feedback from your peers in class, because good questions are going to get you good responses. Poor questions are going to get you poor data and poor responses. So do the work in the beginning. It's going to make it easier in the end. Great job, reporters.